Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I'm so glad to have Chris Baden on the show. Now, I've had some interesting guests since November of 2019 that I met through them coming on to be a guest, that there's like instant synergy. I know they're going to be an amazing guest, and Chris is one of those people. Now, Chris is typically thinking about building three things at any given moment. He has a lifelong marriage, world-impacting family, and multi-million dollar businesses. The last three businesses Chris has started has done over $1 million each per year in revenue. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to have him on the show, because he knows how to build a business from scratch. And in the last 10 years of being self-employed and employing others, he attributes purpose-driven prospecting as his key skill to solve problems and add value to others. And so that's one of the reasons why we're having Chris on the show today, because I want him to talk about that purpose-driven prospecting, that conviction selling. And can you tell I'm excited? Chris, I'm so excited to have you on the show. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you so much, Kim. I always enjoy talking with you.
So, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us a little bit of your story, where you've come from, and where you're heading to.
Yes. Well, I was faced with a challenge. I had to figure out how to survive in life. And so I this is my logic. This is how it went in my head. I was like, how much money do I want to make? That's where I started. I was like, well, $100,000 sounds like a lot of money and a good idea, and this is over a decade ago. And so I just started finding different ways to make $100,000 in a year, and I found 10, and then I narrowed it down to about 2, and I found the one that I felt fit me the best, and I had the best shot. So I went for it. It was actually in the payment technology industry, so credit card processing. So you go to a restaurant, you pay for your burger, your taco, your whatever, your meal, you give them a credit card. I was the guy that went into businesses, befriended the owner, ideally, and then said, hey, let's talk about rates and all the hardware and contracts and agreements, all the stuff that went in with that. I was 20 nothing. I knew nothing. And it was commission only. I felt like I was going to vomit every single day for the first 8 months of that job. And it taught me some life lessons that shifted the very direction of my life. And there's one in particular that I can share with you. Would you like to hear this story?
Sure, I'd love to.
In my second month, right? And in my life, I've played sports my whole life growing up. I've been in martial arts. I'm used to this very performance-driven environment, and so naturally, I guess I find myself in commission-only B2B sales, among my first jobs. And then the second month, I'm working 60, 70 plus hours a week for the entire month, right?
Oh,
And guess how much I made?
Not a lot.
$800.
Yep.
$800. And now I watched over 40 people come and go. And I get it. They quit. And the way I'm wired, like, quit's not in my blood. I hate, don't get me wrong, I hated it like everyone else, but I'm like, I'm not leaving this stupid place. I'm not letting anybody fire me until I figure this crap out, because now I'm pissed. And
but
so
they were probably happy with you because you made that $800. Because you were better than probably 90% of the people who came in.
Maybe so. I mean, there's some truth to that, and there's also some people that were doing well, and it was a challenging, a very tense environment.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize there were other jobs that probably would have been a way better path. I didn't know any better, right? But I find myself in this place, and I think part of the hook is the hook that gets a lot of us entrepreneurs. I was building a portfolio. And so, the idea was I would sign up these, businesses, and then they would be processing, and I get a really, really, really small percentage of the transaction, of all the transactions, and I'd build up this monthly residual. Mm-hmm. So it was a cool idea, but man, it hurt. And in the second month, here's what I learned. I learned that I don't get paid to work. I get paid to
True.
produce results.
Very true.
And getting results is not the prospect's problem. It's my problem. And so some people will call it commission breath. Oh, he just wants to sell something. And so at that point, there was something that shifted inside of me. I said, like, everything in my power. I will never make another human being feel like they need to buy something from me.
Hmm.
Because it's not, they don't need to buy this because I haven't found a way to provide for my family and I need to feed them. That's not their problem. That's my problem.
Yeah.
And so the way that I started approaching that is, well, number one is volume. I just need more activity. I need, it's like the KPI conversation. I need a lot more activity and conversations that I need to start. And this kind of starts to leak into purpose-driven prospecting. And as I increase activity, I also learned that how do I get them results? Well, the three things that I focus on the most are listening, practicing empathy, and creatively solving problems.
Mhm.
Those three things are the things that anyone I'm focused with and talking to and building relationship with, I'm focused on listening to them, practicing empathy, trying to feel like what it's like to be them and where they're actually at. Can you actually, if you were in their shoes, could you actually create a better result, and why or why not? And if you can't, get out. Go
Yeah.
refer them to someone that actually is going to get the job done. So there's kind of like this. I'm trying to make this as soft as I can, but there's this kind of this other like grit side of me that's like most people can't handle that talk. It's just very very direct, and so creatively solving problems. These are the three things that I focused on, and I started to generate everyone I talked to. I saved them either time and or money, both or one of them.
Mhm.
And if I couldn't create that type of desirable result, I would say I can't, and here's why. They would end up respecting that, send me more people, and then I'd be off to those people or the next people. And it shifted the whole direction of my life, and here's how. I
Because you
ended
put
up
people
staying.
first.
Exactly. And I was there for 3 years. It took me about 8 months to figure out how to finally run a pipeline. And I haven't been there in 7 years now. And guess what? I still have a portfolio of businesses that I get a monthly residual that pays me to this day.
That's sweet.
Um, so there is this. Now you had to like get to a certain point, and then you're actually vested. You actually get some ownership of that residual. So I eventually went that to, I got there is my point. And that was kind of the beginning breeding ground of learning how to look people in the eye,
Mhm.
build real relationships in local
Yes.
chamber of commerce and BNI and other local networking groups that were paid, not free. I learned very quickly that the free ones don't work don't work out really well. And so this all led me to starting multiple businesses, because the main reason I did this was so that I had an excuse to go make friends with business owners, and I got to see their financials because it's credit card processing. So I wanted to figure out, well, what business am I going to start?
Mhm.
I saw myself building my own company or companies, and now, I've built three different seven-figure companies in three different industries. And the reason that you can take Chris and you can go put him in any industry is I understand how to solve problems. I understand how to listen and practice empathy, and I understand how to start building relationship and what I like to call transaction
Mhm.
velocity.
Yeah.
And so I know how to get one transaction, good transaction done where two parties come together and they leave and they're both in a better spot because they did the transaction. Something that if someone hears me say one thing today, Kim, I hope that they hear me say, to accomplish something greater than yourself,
Mhm.
it takes more than yourself.
True.
People, the one of I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this.
Oh, go
Um,
for it.
one of the
Without using
um,
bad language.
yeah, no, it's not bad language. There's a character of great wisdom that goes by the name of Winnie the Pooh. And I mean, Yoda's great, do or do not, there is no try. But Winnie the Pooh, just to pull from some of these these wise characters. Oh no, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mhm.
And it's not that an exact quote, but there's some Winnie the Pooh quote that's along the line of asking for hope. And I love the way John Maxwell says it, that hits me so hard in my gut. And I hope some other, solopreneurs and other entrepreneurs that are in the process of building their team hear this, because I need to remind myself of this every day. John Maxwell says, you can ask for help, or you can give up on your vision. And the thing with most entrepreneurs is we get frustrated because we can't run as fast as we need and we want to run. What we see in our head, not everyone sees, and we just can't get there. And then we start to sprint, and then we get tired and gassed out, and it's like, and then we start to lose hope, and we get doubtful and frustrated and discouraged, and then we finally crash, and then we're back, and then we're full of fire, and then we take on everything again. We just repeat this cycle, and it's really frustrating. And then the work. Have you felt some of this before, Kim?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Here's the. What's that?
Interrupt you for 1 sec. So
yeah,
I really liked what you were saying there. And there was a couple of things that really struck out to me. First of all, you're willing to pay your dues, right? Most entrepreneurs want that quick, get rich quick scheme. There is none, right? It's called paying your dues and doing what you need to do to learn how to be an entrepreneur. But then what you did is you realized that it's centered around relationships. True, authentic relationships where both parties come out winning. And I love how you say that. And it's funny, one of my favorite books is by Dr. Seuss. And it's just a book about, you can go anywhere that you want to go. You've got shoes on your feet, right? But sometimes these kids' books have such incredible nuggets of wisdom. So I never discount it, and I love Dr. Seuss.
But you and I both are read kid books quite a bit. So I've got 3 kids under the age of 5, and I've read a lot more probably ever in my life in the last few. Yeah, so I Dr. Seuss is great. Yeah, we've enjoyed this as well.
My kids particularly liked Hop on Pop. There's one spot in the book, and the kids knew it off by heart. I mean, they're grown now, but they even still remember it to this day. And they knew when the page was coming, and so I'd be reading and flipping the pages, and they'd go, "Mommy, wait," because they knew the page was coming. So then I'd flip a page, and they'd go, "No, stop! Don't hop on, Pop!"
They wanted to be ready. I love it.
So you were saying, because I kind of interrupted you there.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yes, no, I was getting lost in Dr. Seuss. Let's see. I was talking about, help me here. I was talking about John Maxwell asking for help, giving up on your. Oh, cycles, I think, is one point that I wanted to land and share with everyone. If you're noticing yourself falling into these same cycles, it's a great indication to listen to John Maxwell or Winnie the Pooh. And ask for help. And the question is how? Well, Chris, I don't have money to pay somebody. There's always an answer. There's always a way. For example, in starting our first software company, we ended up paying over $750,000 in development in about a 1.5 year period. And just to be completely transparent, I'm not a liquid millionaire. So yeah, I mean, my wife stays at home. We have 3 kids. Like we have shelter. We're able to eat. We have 2 cars. One of them is a minivan. It's a Sienna V6. Handles like a dream. Any minivan haters, like, just go stuff it. It's a great car. It's a great mini. I don't know. I like to have fun with it. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
for me, I don't have little kids anymore, but it's an amazing business tool, because not that I've done it in a 1.5 years now, but I used to do a lot of events, and the minivan was perfect. You could fit everything for an event in the back of your van. And so minivans are my preferred vehicle.
Oh yeah. I love to joke about minivans. So that's where I'm at. And we yes, I like to invest and build businesses and go that route. And so we did, and we're building a software company. My point is, creating something out of nothing is a very challenge. It's a challenge that I face very often.
Mhm.
And what we ended up structuring the deal where we didn't come out of pocket up front. And so I give you kind of this contrast of, we ended up paying, over $250,000 in about a year and a half period, which is a lot of money, but I did that out of sales.
Yes.
Right. And so we did 100,000 in sales our first hour. We did just under $250,000 our first month with that software company. We ended up selling in the, late 2019, and then we passed the million mark in about 10 months. And all of that was fun. It was exciting. It was cool. I knew nothing about software. So hopefully somebody hears that. If you don't, you're not the expert yet, that doesn't mean you can't succeed. But I was willing. I showed up. I listened. I practiced empathy. I creatively solved problems. Yes, for customers. Yes, for my partners. Yes, for my product and project manager. Yes, for developers. Yes, for our support team is in 3 different countries. Yes, for our affiliates. Yet, listen, we leaders and entrepreneurs have to sell everybody.
Yeah.
Why are we all doing this? We need that answer, and it's that connection. It's that and I wouldn't even do a fraction of that by myself. There's no way, right? So to accomplish something greater than yourself, it takes more than yourself, and it starts with asking for help.
Well, I hit about 2017, 2018, and I could no longer do it all because I was doing most of the work on the book projects. I was doing all of the selling. I was starting to develop a team, but then, it was all the back and forth with the team. And I mean, I was burning out fast. And that's when I decided that, I needed help. I couldn't do it alone. And to be honest, there was things I really hated doing. So those were the ones that always dropped it off, right? The stuff
Yes.
I wasn't all that great at was the stuff that got procrastinated on. So that's a little hint and tip for you guys. If you're really procrastinating on something, you probably hate doing it to begin with.
Yes. Yes.
If you really hate doing it, you're probably not that great at it. So, somebody explained it to me this way. Let's say that you have a capacity to make $50 or $75 in an hour doing what you love to do, right? Let's say that you're amazing at sales, growing business, developing the relationships, all this. But let's say that you're really not good at managing staff, or even just some of the smaller things. Maybe, posting on social media regularly, or, getting your accounting done, whatever it is that you're constantly procrastinating at. If you can make, let's say, $75 an hour, but you can hire someone for, say, $25, $30 an hour, and you can make 75, you're still making $40 an hour by paying someone else to do what you hate to do while you make the $75 an hour.
And you got all of your time back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's wonderful. Like right now, I'm recording this podcast with you. It's part of, the growth strategy for my business, but I just love doing the podcast. But in the background, my best friend, Juanita, she's the co-host of this show. So we do episodes together. She runs all of the freelancers. She runs all of the projects. She keeps everything on track. She keeps me on track half of the time. But in the background, she's running all these book projects for me. Now, I'm involved in the book projects. I'm involved with the clients, but I'm not running everything. I'm not doing everything. I have certain jobs. So I get to do the fun part. I get to interview all the clients. Everybody else takes it in the background, does all the work, presents stuff to me. I present it to the clients. That's the fun part for me, right? But now I don't have that stress. I'm not thinking about, I didn't get this off to this freelancer, or did we get this transcribed, or what chapter are we on, or did I forget to book a call with the client? That's all done now. I just show up for the calls.
So much better.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not working in my business, I'm working on my business.
It's so powerful. A big part of really parenting, but also running a business is energy management.
Mm-hmm.
And so hey, you do these certain tasks over and over, they destroy your soul. You do these other ones, you light up. Now, if you don't like all aspects of business, then you shouldn't be in business.
Mhm.
Um, but to think that you're going to love every part of business is highly unlikely. And so there's going to be certain things that are still work, but your energy levels are different, right? And that's what I hear you describing, Kim. And so I think just someone hearing that, hey, you have permission to not like something and procrastinate on something, and it doesn't mean that you don't value it. It just means that it doesn't flow through you the right way. And knowing that there's somebody else that gets just as excited about that thing. That was a huge learning curve for me. So an insurance agency that I ran, again, lots happened in the last decade. It had a small team of 5, and I remember I had the hardest time hiring people because, like, personally, internally, because I was like, I'm so sorry, like, like the amount that I was going to pay, the salary, 50 grand a year or less, and the odds are I was never going to be able to pay them more. But I'm used to, sales and commission, and there's always that earning potential. But what I learned in the interviews, it taught me so much. And I had to ask them because I didn't believe them. I was like, okay, well, this is the amount. They're like, oh, that sounds great. And it's just going to be this. We need these tasks done, and it'll probably always stay here. And they're like, yeah, I know. That's fine. I was like, but but really? And so I started to realize, it's like, oh, there's a lot of, in fact, most people don't think the way I think.
No.
And then
Well,
I started to,
they're
I didn't,
having a job.
yes. It's not even, it's not good, bad, right or wrong.
No.
It's just different. We're all wired different. And I was like, oh, like some people, there's plenty of people, even in my family, look at me and I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I'm not wired like Chris. Right? Because I'm a little bit more like type A, a little more intense, and it is really tiring and exhausting a lot of times. It's just the reality of it. But I wouldn't have it any other way. That's how I'm wired. I love it. I also hate it, but I love it. Anyway, hopefully this is freeing and helpful, for others, because you'll start to build these relationships, and you'll start to work together, and it'll be this, not always harmonious, but when it's done right and you have the right people in the right spots, it's like, whoa, like I could not, like I'll never go back, to the other option of doing this alone.
So, Chris, we are at 22 minutes. We haven't even hit your training section yet. You've provided so much value, and we haven't talked about your book. So, what I want to do is, are you willing to come back for part 2, and we'll dive deep into the training that you have prepared?
So that sounds like fun, Kim.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So, what I want you to end with, because we talked about this in your pre-interview, and I'm sure it'll kind of start to frame things for part 2, which we will book and record another day. You told me something that I found really interesting, and that's the fact that your 3 and 4-year-olds make money.
Yes, yes. So which part do you want me to elaborate here with my 4 and 3-year-old?
Maybe just talk about it a little bit, and I'm sure that will be a good segment to end with, and then we'll transition into your training section on part 2.
Perfect. So a couple things. One, there's a certain thought process that I really wanted, that I really want, still present tense, still building this and working on this with my kids. And now I have a baby girl, 7 months old. So, she'll, a couple more years, she'll have her own business. But for my 4 and 3-year-old, I wanted them to feel the thought process of being a contributor, of being a creator, like creating and solving problems, and understanding how that works and how they fit in the world. And the second piece that in sharing a little bit of this that I hope people hear, is the sales and marketing skills. I believe sales is the number one life skill.
Mm.
But Chris, I'm a doctor. Well, great. This will up your bedside manner like no other. Well, I'm a lawyer. Well, you need to be persuasive, right? That's that's why you're being hired. A part of why you're being hired. And then obviously, if you're an entrepreneur, but if you're an author, if you're like everything is sales, Kim. In every conversation we have, whether it's deciding where we're going to go for dinner, ideas are being bought and sold.
Yes.
And so it's really this exercise in the skill of being aware of yourself and being aware and considerate of others, and creatively creating solutions where everyone's winning. That's how I view it. And so these principles that I focus on that build 7-8 figure businesses now, and hopefully 9 figures, I'm working to solve that problem. But as my brain and skills continue to grow, they're so simple that they can be read in a Dr. Seuss book. And they're so simple that even my 4 and 3-year-old can implement them and be making $30 per month, working one afternoon a month. And while we've
So
tied
what did
2
it
different,
sell? I'm really curious about this.
so this is their second business, believe it or not. And their second one is called Feel Good Pizza. So the Baden boys, they go and deliver some Feel Good Pizza. And the way they do this is we started making our own pizza, just really quality dough, so it sits in your body, feels good kind of thing. And then we ended up dumping a bunch of vegetables on the pizza. This was my hack to get myself to eat more vegetables. And so we would make different types of Feel Good Pizza. And the reason it's feel good is because you can eat as much of it as you want and you still feel good. And so we enjoyed this as a family. And we're like, like what if, my son was kind of done with his last business, and so he wanted to do this one. And I was like, yeah, well, other people get hungry, and so we could solve that problem for them. And so part of the short version of the story is my son comes bursting into my room one day, my office, and he's like, Dad! I was like, is everything okay? What's happening? And he's like, I want to get a toy. And the relief sets in, and I'm like, oh, well, this is it's hilarious. Okay, that's great. And he's like, can we get one now? I said, absolutely, but you need money. And he's like, well, how do I get money? And I said, well, you solve problems for other people, and then they give you money. And he said, okay, well, how do I solve problems for other people? He actually, he was 3 at the time. He asked me that, and I was like, well, crap, I don't know how a 3-year-old solves problems for other people. You got me, but anyway, you know me, I'm not gonna, I thought about it for the rest of the day, and I was like, I got it. And so we started figuring out I wasn't gonna go the lemonade stand route. It's like, come on, it's sparse traffic, 25 cents. That business model doesn't make sense. This kid wants to buy a $9 toy. He needs to make at least $13. So after taxes and everything, he can pay for the thing, and he'll have $1 for the checking jar, $1 for the savings jar, and $1 for the giving jar. And so he needs to know how to manage the money as well, like when he gets what he gets. And so we got to make more than what it costs. And so we go through this process, and he starts making the dough, and I have video of all this. Of course, they're making the dough and they're making the pizza. They wash their hands, and we clean sterilize the counter and everything, so it's all clean. And yeah, so then they wrap it up, and they have their little cooking instructions, and they go and deliver these pizzas. And so they make pizzas once a month, and they it's about $10 a household, and we have 3 households currently.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. And I am looking forward to part 2, where we're going to dive deeper into your training that you've got prepared for us. And we're going to talk about your book, because we didn't even get a chance to mention that yet. So this has been Chris Baden and Kim Thompson-Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the very next episode. Bye now.